This is Christ and Culture Podcast, and I'm your host, Rory Van Wyk, and this is Eastside Taylor. Woo! Thanks for tuning in. It's been a hot minute. It's been a good minute.
It's been a great minute.
Yeah, we had Thanksgiving recently, this last weekend, and it was pretty epic. And, you know, we just had my little immediate family, wife and 4 kids, and then my in-laws, my uncle. Nope, not my uncle. My brother-in-law, who's a uncle, and one of my young adults, Gabe. Yeah, so I lead the young adults now, and along with the youth group, and so he came along, and so that was awesome to have him. And yeah, we had all the fixins. What about you? Did you have green bean casserole?
Yes.
Is there anything else?
Is there anything else? No, not really. No, I do love it. I feel like everybody discovered green bean casserole in the last couple years, and I'm like, I've always loved
loved it.
But it seems to be hot now.
Yeah, I've discovered more haters of green bean casserole in the last few years. Like where they'll go out of their way to put it online, and I'm just like, delete. You're
I used
not
to
my
not
friend
like
anymore.
cranberry sauce, but then my wife showed me actually good cranberry sauce.
Nice. Well, I used to hate stuffing, dude. Until Tiffany, my wife makes.
There's bad stuffing. You can have really bad stuffing.
Dude, she makes homemade stuffing with bits and pieces of actual bread.
Not grossness.
Yeah, I'm gonna be a salesman soon, so
a salesman.
See my efforts.
Okay.
But yeah, Thanksgiving is an epic time. It's sad in our culture today, in our society, how we just want to skip Thanksgiving. You know, it goes from Halloween to Christmas, you know, but I think we all enjoy Thanksgiving when it comes down to it.
Sure.
You know?
Yeah.
But you know, there's always something to be thankful for. You know, I would say I'm in this season, but God's just really been put on my heart. And I think I've shared with you, Isai, just how important it is for me, but also for all of us to share our gratitude with the Lord. And so that's something that, man, it consists of needing a designated time, a season for sure. But it's dude, we are to be thankful all the time. You know, and not just be thankful, I'm so grateful, #blessed. It's dude, share your gratitude with the Lord.
Just add that to everything.
Yeah. Thank him for the little things, for the big things. You know, it's kind of crazy. We had youth group two weeks ago. And, you know, we, in that time we're talking about this. I shared this, and just the discussion was, you know, just going into it. And I brought up, you know, man, these areas that, you know, we can take for granted, you know, and I named off a few things, and I brought up hot shower, right? You know, I love a hot shower, and, you know, it's crazy. So, a couple of my leaders, a couple and their kids, the next day, their hot water went out.
Oh,
and it just came back on for 2 weeks. It was off. And, you know, just and I'm not saying
it's hard to get plumbers and electricians right now.
Yeah. But it's you really appreciate those kind of things. And they aren't small things. They actually are big things, you know?
I had my sink back up recently.
Yeah.
Epically back up. I felt like I was an idiot calling a plumber for a backed up sink, but I did all the things. I plunged it. I don't remember the order, but I plunged it. I used Drano.
Yeah.
I was like, this is so weird.
Yeah.
Because we're not irresponsible. We don't pour
I believe
fat down or anything down the drain. You know what I mean? But it was backed up, and I even went and got the a 20-foot sink snake, and took the plumbing and went into the wall and ran it, and I was like, dude, this is beyond me now.
Yeah.
Because I've done everything.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is kind of scary. And I was actually a little bit worried.
Yeah.
And then I felt validated when the guy came in. He came in and staked it with his snake that was the same as my snake, right?
Yeah.
No dice. Then he comes in with a bigger snake.
Come on.
No dice, right? Nothing happens.
And he comes in with a jackhammer.
No, he came in with the electric powered crazy. I've never
What?
seen one before.
Yeah.
It was huge. And like, I was like, okay, all right, now I feel validated.
Yeah.
Because like this
It
beyond
wasn't
what I
just
could
me.
actually. It wasn't me. Just like always feel like if I call somebody, that I'm breaking weak, and
Yeah.
like I should have done this myself.
Oh, absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, this is definitely beyond what I could have handled. Like,
Well,
it's like-
and doesn't that suck when you've had someone like fix something, if it's plumbing, electrical, whatever, and then they
it
take
turns
like,
out to be stupid.
yeah, they
easy.
take a minute and they charge you $140. It's like,
Well,
bro.
That's legitimate though.
Yeah, yeah.
Like
Is
when
it?
you no, it is.
Yeah, depends
Like
on
if
what
you're
it
on
is.
that, if you're ever on that end, and
Yeah.
like the costs are so high, and like he's not taking home 140 bucks.
Yes,
dude.
exactly.
He's gonna
Especially if
take
it's
home
not
like
his business.
way less than that.
Yeah, yeah.
Like 30, right? At the end of the day, you don't get any of that money. Like
So
the
sad.
government gets a bigger chunk than you do.
Yeah, exactly. And that's good. No, I'm glad you bring that up because, you know, I just think of businesses, organizations, I mean, like churches. I mean, you know, you think, I mean, and maybe not churches isn't the greatest example in this context, but it's like, dude, it takes, I mean, really, even churches, it takes money to run things. And like you're saying, taxes and just, I mean, so many avenues
It's
that we don't think
crazy
about.
how much money you're like, yeah. When you're like, I don't know, when you just get some money and you don't see, if you're never a business owner
Yeah,
or something like that where you're managing
right.
stuff and seeing like the other side of the equation, it's really hard to conceptualize the like amount of churn of actual revenue you have to make
Exactly.
before you actually get any money
Yeah.
profit.
I mean,
it's
seriously.
it's crazy. I mean, it all depends on your what business you're in and what the profit margins actually
Right.
are. But if you think about it, like if you are like at a 50% profit margin, right, kind of thing,
Yeah.
you work till June before you make money,
Yeah.
right? For the year,
Yeah.
right?
Well, and you gotta think about slow seasons. I mean, there's so many aspects, you know,
Right.
so many areas where it's like you just think, well, they're just trying to rip me off. Some businesses I can't speak for them,
Right.
You know,
And yeah, like I just think about restaurants. I know
that's what
some
I
guys
was
that
thinking
own
of.
restaurants, and the margins on those are always low.
Yeah,
Always low. It's
Right.
like, and it's stupid, and the costs are high. They're crazy. I don't even know why people do. I mean, it's fun,
yeah,
but like it's a very difficult business,
right.
and like I'm still amazed that anybody survived the like 2020.
Oh,
COVID,
and that's
dude.
where my mind goes.
I was
you
like,
know?
how did you like? I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I think of, you know, our buddy Matt Harner.
Oh yeah,
And, you know, he owns Ultra Life. We love you, Matt. And, you know, two locations, and, you know, now owns Yaquina Bakery.
yes,
And, you know, he was a new business owner, a couple years into it.
yeah.
And
He was not that
COVID,
far in.
COVID just smacked us all up in the face. And, you know, he was pressured in that. I remember
yeah.
helping him out, you know, move stuff around. And I mean, just in that season and him, you know, just being pressured in it. But, you know,
He
I mean,
navigated
praise
it.
God, you know,
did.
he's in it. And many business owners, you know, but yeah, I just think, you know, being in the restaurant industry, you know, and that's what I wanted to continue in before ministry. But really it's so funny how you have people come in and they like look at, you know, the price of a burger and they're like, what, $10? You know, and it's like at a restaurant,
$10.
and now it's gone way up higher for sure. But
Oh, yeah.
but it's like you got to think. And I remember hearing the comments, "Oh, I can make this at home for
Yeah, you can.
for $4 or $3." I'm like,
Can you though?
Absolutely.
Are you actually doing all the calculations though? That's the
Right.
thing that too. I was like, well, what are you calculating?
Right.
Like if you were gonna pay yourself to make this hamburger, right?
Yeah.
And then to actually calculate the cost to like cook
Yeah.
the burger, right? Because this is the thing. You're like, oh, ingredients. That's the only thing anybody thinks about,
Yeah,
right? They're like, these
Oh,
are the
yeah.
ingredients. I know how much the ingredients cost
Yeah.
because they all go to the store. We
well,
all,
and then
I'm
you got to
like,
buy
dude,
bulk for that certain
I'm like, you
certain
gotta, like-
item. Go ahead, sorry.
you got to account for like all these things, right? The
Yeah.
buster guy, you got multiple people. You got the guy doing the dishes.
Yeah.
You just so many pieces,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And then like all the equipment,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
And you can't do it in your like we're not talking about your house. Like,
Yeah.
you have a health department, and they're like, they have expectations that
Yeah.
are much higher than your house, and you're like, guaranteed, everybody's fudging their numbers. You're not passing the health. At the health department, if you were pretending your house was a restaurant,
Yeah.
right, and the health department comes in, you fail, almost guaranteed, right?
Yeah.
Because like
So
you got to have the triple sink, right?
Yeah.
There's so many requirements.
Oh, man.
right?
Well, and I think say you want mushroom Swiss with, you know, fried jalapenos on your burger.
Right.
Okay, you have to buy. I'm not saying bulk, but a big thing of mushrooms. You know, big thing. You know what I mean? Like, they're
And then
just
hope that everybody buys it.
yeah.
You're like,
I just think-
nobody wants mushrooms this week. That was a fail. I spent,
yeah.
$50 on mushrooms, and this week nobody's buying mushrooms.
Right.
Like,
and so
50 is probably not enough, but you know what I'm saying? Like,
right. Well, and really, you know, when you go to a restaurant, that's what you got to anticipate is, hey, yes, it could be cheaper, maybe less work, maybe, and really tip. You know, like you're going out there
Yeah, please tip.
to be blessed, and so bless other people. I think as a Christian, I mean, we won't go to this too much, but it's grace. There's grace and mercy. So think about that before you tip, and when you tip, and after you tip. So and I just think of, it's right at your fingertips, and I think we all are in a society, and it's part of us that we want everything now. If it's a fast-paced, video, culture, just how, that aspect where we want to see a quick video. We want everything quick. We want to get from A to B quickly. And in that, we have our first article.
Dun, dun.
Oh, sorry. I don't know. That was weird.
Should have did it differently. Here we go.
So, yeah.
Oh,
Where is
that
it?
didn't
Where is
work.
it? Where is it?
That's a wrong fader. I'm all over the place.
Hey! So we have this first article, and we've talked about this before, and we were trying to find out earlier, like, have we talked about this particular article, or is it just similar? Is this
It wasn't the same
step up?
article.
It's not the same article. It's been months since we first brought this one up, or on these lines. But this new Concorde, that's the name of it. It's a jet, a extremely fast jet,
Hypersonic.
which could fly from
Or
New York.
supersonic.
Yeah, supersonic, which could fly from New York to London in 1.5 hours, and it's a step closer to take off. And it's crazy. First
Yeah.
of all, like, why? Like, I'm not gonna ask why, but it's like, dude,
What do you
that's
mean, why?
nuts. Yeah,
Oh.
like, imagine going in it like with your family. Like, if we had that technology, I don't know. It's cool. I think it's like, man, we should reach for the stars. But I just, speaking of takeoff, but I just think, like, what's the importance of this? I don't know if it's military driven, like just our curiosity and planning with it. I think it's cool.
They're shooting for the high end, probably commuter.
Yeah.
Like your CEOs and high level, like
I could see that.
because it's the time is money, and it all makes sense when you're at that level, right?
Yeah.
It don't make sense for me to
Yeah.
fly, because this will be like it'll be like a $4,000 flight or
Yeah.
something.
Unless we get called somewhere to like do a live podcast with somebody,
sure.
and they want to get us there quick.
Yeah,
quickly.
sure. It all makes sense at the different levels of scale.
Right.
Like, it's a scaling thing, but
Yeah.
I don't know, dude. It would be kind of crazy to go that fast. Like, I'd be like, oh,
Yeah.
it's just like driving to Corrales.
Yeah. Yeah. I'd like to get to Corvallis really quickly. Like 10
Oh,
minutes.
that would be sick.
5 minutes. 5
5
minutes with
minutes?
this thing. 2 minutes? is that too crazy?
Yeah. I don't think you could get up to speed.
No.
How far is it actually to Corrales, though? I never thought about that. Like, as the bird flies, it's probably not very far at all.
Oh, I hear you. Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
It's really not. I think just the way you have to take, and then, loops
I
around
bet
and everything.
it's like only 30 miles or something like that.
Right. And I just think where my mind goes is, like with NASA, with space, with everything. It's like, it's cool, but like, man, like what then when you like reach your limit? Like I feel like it's crazy how technology is always advancing. There's, new information, there's new formulas, there's new technology that we're always developing. But, I just like, I think there is good, like where you're bringing up, like maybe for organizations, businesses, like the CEOs need to get somewhere. Or, I don't know, even the president, like if he needs to get to,
it's a question of
Russia.
if it's the right time
Quickly.
too. If we remember correctly, Concorde didn't last forever.
Yeah.
And like it just didn't economically like.
So this isn't a great name for it.
Maybe. I
Yeah.
mean, it did work for a while, and but it's just everybody's always doing a cost benefit analysis, and like Concorde probably didn't get enough people to like need to get across the Atlantic that fast.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because that was mostly what it did, is transatlantics. Those are the flights.
Yeah.
You're in New York to London, New York to Paris and back.
Yeah.
That's the most common flight I think it was on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I don't want to, I'm not trying to be a Debbie Downer. I just think like, man, like it is cool. I just like how much money goes into this, how much time, how much effort, and so I would say there is going to be good.
Well,
I think it's,
you learn things.
Yeah. Well, and I love to hear this and see this. My next question is, when am I going to be able to ride the jet?
You want to ride the jet? Sure. I would too.
Sure.
I don't think I'm gonna.
Yeah. Come on. But I think too, it just says a lot, not about our culture, but really just, man, like just with us, like where we want to be this, and I don't want to make it philosophical,
bigger, faster, and
or really spiritually, but it's like, man, like there are times where, hey, we can be maybe not this person we want to be, but where we can develop, like aspects of our life very quickly. And you know what? Like, it's kind of like, I think of tension, right? Like, where there's confrontation, tension, and sometimes there's quick, maybe not quick moments, but like times where we can quickly, be proactive, where say if you and I get into it, Isai, and we can quickly resolve, but then there's times where you can't, like where it takes time. And I just think if it's relational, if it's, like you and I've been in ministry for years now. Right. And
a decade.
Yeah. And it's like, really, and you've been in a little longer than me, like where it's like, I remember just thinking like, man, I want to be this person. I want to mature. And sometimes you just got to be in it. And not sometimes
right.
and next thing you know, like, oh man, like I don't think like that, or I don't act like that as much, or,
It's funny how you have a vision of what you think it's going to be, and then like a reality, and you kind of know that it isn't going to be what you think.
Right.
But you're like, you almost have an expectation. This is probably the part that isn't what I think it is.
Yeah.
And it's some other part that
Right.
you're like, wait a minute.
Yeah,
what?
right.
My day is filled up with this?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. Right. And,
You're like-
and I think growth is sometimes a slow process, and we can be so, just impatient. And I mean, I'm speaking for myself, and I just think, man, like you never know what technology or, like what happens in the process. So you don't always have to enjoy the process, but at the same time, you should always like know that, like,
You should
man,
appreciate the process.
yeah, and God has you in a process, and
You're being refined.
yeah, and trust in the Lord, and it's like, man, growth will come. So I wasn't even thinking about that, until then, and that's what's the beauty of podcasting. And this is we get to like touch up on things. Some of it's just random, some of it's good, some of it's deep, but it's all like, it's just good, man. And so this next article, which is a little crazy, we have the first time I heard about it, where was it? But anyways, it's on the Cosmopolitan, where it's talking about the Satanic Abortion Clinic. right? And the article goes like this: the satanic abortion clinic that pissed off pretty much everyone and might beat the bans anyway. I said pissed off, and I used to always say that, and somebody corrected me that that's basically cussing. I don't think so. I don't say it as much anyways, but it was a learning curve for me. Yeah, I don't think so.
No.
Right. I don't think so. But let's refrain from saying it too much.
I mean, I wouldn't.
You know,
maybe I wouldn't say it in front of my kids. Or
yeah,
something.
I used to say it too much, and I remember saying it.
If you're British,
yeah,
they're always saying
exactly. If you like say it towards something like that, yeah. Well, I said it like probably like 5 times the first time I preached on stage at our church. And
I think I remember that.
It was actually Marty who brought it up, and I wasn't offended. I was like, oh, because I used to always say
the first time. Didn't you do it like years ago before Marty? I thought there was one time you were at the pulpit.
Yeah,
when Luke was
maybe.
I want to say he was at Acts or something.
Maybe
not. He went to Acts early.
Yeah, it was like the first or second time, anyways. And I was like, okay, like that's. I see that, and like, or I see, I at least like entertain that idea. And so I actually stopped.
Crazy. Because like once you get up there, like,
you
don't know what's going to happen.
So really though, like the article, right, about the satanic abortion clinic, it's like I would say have good arguments, but they're making a case, and,
sure.
I really don't want to go into it too much, entertain it too much. But, like their take on it is protecting women, right? And it sounds amusing. It sounds catchy. It sounds appealing to the eye where women are protected. I think how you word things, if it's for the LGBTQ community, if it's for abortion, if you use certain terminology where it's going to sound effective, it's going to sound sensitivity driven,
Right.
But the thing is,
we're doing this in love.
Yeah, we're doing this in love. And really, I think you could use that terminology really in the opposite way where you're like, okay, like it's killing babies, killing children, and and if you call it a fetus,
step back from it, explaining to a 5-year-old.
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah.
And then you're like, oh.
Yeah. Well, and when you have kids, if you're a Christian or not, because it's like you see the value of life, and that's where it's mind blowing when people stand with or for abortion when like they have kids. Like, so it's wild to me.
I listened to a podcast in this. Oh man.
Yeah.
The dude had some weird. So, I think it was Tim Pool, but he had this guy on.
Yeah.
And like the thought process to me was so convoluted.
Yeah.
It was like I understood what he was saying, but he basically, he was like, oh yeah, the woman has the sovereign right over her own body, right?
Yeah.
I'm like, okay. And he goes, so Tim like drew him out into this conversation, and he was like, so you think that abortion all the way to up to 9 months, right, till actual birth? He goes, yes. He goes, let me ask you this though. Like, she can do anything with her body she wants, right? She has sovereignty. Can she smoke meth when she has a baby? He goes, oh no. You called CPS on her for that, right? And he's like, but it's her body. Yeah. He goes, but you're endangering the baby. And he was like, what? And Dang. Dude was like, ooh. I was like, oh, you got him there. And he didn't get it. Like he 100% was like, he didn't even understand what he was saying. I was like, you don't see the conflict with that?
Yeah.
That you're acknowledging that this is a baby.
Yeah.
And that she shouldn't smoke crack or crank or whatever while she's like pregnant.
Yeah.
But like she could just kill the baby. No problem. That's fine.
Yeah. Yeah.
What?
Yeah. It's foolish.
You're-
I'm gonna say it.
The
yeah.
absurdity like of that like flipping the logic
Right.
was just like baffling.
No, it's
And
ridiculous.
he was fine. He didn't feel like he needed to reconcile that. I was like, all right. I don't see how you can't. You
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
it's absurd.
Yeah. Yeah. I just think it is ridiculous. It is absurd. I know that we as Christians can stand, but we also should be advocates for support, to have support systems for women that are thinking about it. Because I am pro-adoption, pro-life,
Right.
you know, and you know, I think of my father who, you know, my dad who, I won't go into it, but his bio parents were going to have an abortion, and you know, they actually decided, and this is factual, and they decided to have an adoption. Here I am, you know. I think,
Praise the Lord.
yeah, and I
That's
just think
kinda
of,
crazy to think about.
yeah, it is.
You
Oh,
would have
yeah.
been deleted.
Oh yeah, it is. And I just think, you know, like it's going to be hard. And I'm not saying there is not reasoning or even good reasoning you may have, but is it better than the the reason to have life and to give this child, you know, a push start? You know, I think of one lady at our church school, you know, where she has a child, and they had an open adoption. Yeah. And so like the bio mom is still present in,
Yeah,
in her
still,
life,
like-
which that would be hard for me, I think, because it's like, man, they're my kids, you know, like, you know, but it's like, hey, I believe like I really commend the bio mom for,
Yeah.
you know, and I just
Sometimes you're just not in the place and like you made a mistake. And I
Yeah.
understand that, but like
yeah,
that's not the solution. The solution is not like termination.
exactly. And so support, I think, you know, we need, and really,
There's options. Man.
yeah, when people
really
like are not maybe against adoption, but they like, you know, like really minimize it. I think I know there's so many people out there that are wanting to adopt. It's actually a tough system. I know several families that foster, and it's hard to adopt right now.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and so I know,
You need some money too.
yeah,
It's usually in the neighborhood like $20,000 to $30,000, or maybe it's more than that now.
yeah,
Like
yeah. It's
to get through the legal process and
Yeah.
everything.
Right. And I was gonna say, I know it's God's heart too. And, you know, like the fatherless, the motherless, and, you know, it's a way we can speak up for those who cannot speak up for themselves, but really it's like, we can still show compassion and love, you know, and I just think, man, that the goal here is life, you know, and we can, be proactive and pro-life and pro-adoption, you know? So, yeah. I think, you know, like one of the biggest things is they're talking about, you know, with this article too, that mothers are taking upon themselves, you know, the act of abortion. And so, man, like we need support. We need prayer. We need people to know that like, hey, this is possible. If you really don't want to, you know, have an abortion, if, you know, and I don't know the actual statistic, but I've heard it's high of how many mothers regret aborting their babies, you know, and, you know, it's like, and I don't want to be on that side where, well, good, you know, like, you know, and a bigot and just, you know, lacking love in it. But at the same time, we stand, you know, for, the unborn, you know, and really stand with God. That's the biggest thing. So, you know, and so I just, and anything with satanic, Satanist, you know, it's like, gosh, guys, come on.
It's mostly an attention grabbing.
Yeah.
With those guys.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So, and I feel like we've shared our bit on that. So, again, you know, pro-life, children, right? So, moving on. So this next article is so dear to my heart.
Is it?
Yes. So this gentleman, and I will say gentleman with some emphasis, just kidding. He found in a garage
Oh, I see why you're
a Chinese treasure worth thousands of dollars.
hoping for that day. You're gonna find
Well,
the rhino horn cup. I found the rhino horn cup.
Well, here's the deal. I love that. I love garage sales. I love thrift shops. All find stuff for the youth groups. I mean,
Yeah.
just like and even with my kids, I don't think they like it as much as I do, but I just love it. I love that concept of one man's treasure.
Right.
Nope, one man's trash is another man's treasure. And this is a random article I found, but it's just fun. You
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
It's a libations cup, which, it just
pretty
means
crazy.
for drinking. Right?
I think so. Yeah.
Right? And
Would you-
it's like carved from a rhino horn and it's Chinese. Like
So
the
crazy.
king, queen, whatever that dynasty is. The one with the Q. I don't know how to pronounce it. I'm sorry.
No, you're good.
I
You're good.
apologize.
Where is it? Am I missing that?
Oh, I don't know if you're missing it or not.
Aphrodisiac?
Is it? No, that's not what it. Well, actually, that is true. The rhino horn thing is
King,
supposed
King
to be.
Dynasty. I think it's instead of Queen. I think it's King.
Is it king
Yeah, I think that's how they pronounce it.
with the Q?
Yeah. Yeah, maybe not though.
Like, you know what? That's the
Don't mark
funniest
my
thing.
words.
Like, sometimes I'm like, okay, you're already anglicizing this word
Yeah.
anyway, right?
right?
So why wouldn't you do the right letter? And I'm like, why do we make a weird letter?
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
to like, oh, because it's a foreign word, but like we're gonna pronounce it all weird anyway.
Yeah.
Or we're anglicizing it,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
We're adapting it to
Yeah.
our language, and then you're still making it weird.
Yeah. Well, why
Like,
I think
You're
that,
not doing it right. And I'm like, I don't understand that. Like if you're like halfway.
Yeah.
And the other thing that like drives me bananas is like sometimes we almost just like baby ourselves with stuff. I'm like we give a country a new name.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like, this is not a hard
the
name.
Dominican
You can-
Republic or the Republic of Czech instead of Czechoslovakia.
Czechoslovakia.
Yeah,
How
they
hard
changed
is that?
that.
That's
Yeah.
not that hard. I can say it, and I'm not very good.
Yeah.
And like,
I
how
needed some
hard is
help.
it to say Mexico
Yeah.
or Nippon instead of Japan?
Yeah.
That one's weird.
Yeah.
Right?
They
Like-
made it worse.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, and then like, I just I don't understand like
Yeah.
the logic that goes down sometimes.
Right.
Right? I'm like, what?
Yeah.
We couldn't say Deutschland?
Right. Well,
Like-
and there's some names. I don't want to go into it too much, but they, how they finally, after how many years, like I think it was 2020 or 2022, whenever it was, they changed the Washington Redskins to the Commanders.
Yeah.
Where I don't know if
Well-
you saw that, but like months ago, they, where was it? I forgot what tribe, where they actually named him. They're like, this is the particular chief, and they're suing the Washington Commanders because they want it back to the Redskins, even though the Redskin name has had a bad connotation. And so, isn't that crazy?
Well, see, this is the thing. Like, it is a more with some of with the Native American stuff.
Yeah.
Like it is more complicated than just like, boom, we're not going to use
Right.
Native American names. Though with some people, that's what they like the final outcome they want, right?
Yeah.
Just we can't use Native anything, right?
Right.
I'm like, well, actually, like the Silet school, they fought really hard to keep the Warriors.
I like it.
Right?
I like it.
And
I
like
think it's paying
they were
respect,
like-
man.
Yeah. And so I was like, well, this is not, it's literally their school.
Yeah. Right.
And it was like, I don't understand what you're doing here. You're not doing them a favor.
Yeah. You're not showing
Right.
reverence now.
Right? You're not doing them a favor by making them like, you can't have your Native American mascot.
Yeah.
All these mostly Native American, I think it's mostly Native American kids now.
Yeah.
It's like over 50%
Yeah.
at the Silet school.
Yeah.
I
I mean, I
may
say
be
yeah,
wrong on
'cause
that.
I
Somebody
think-
go ahead and fact check
No, but
me.
I,
But
someone will. Yeah.
Someone
no,
will.
I think that's awesome.
But like the so Redskins is like kind of
Yeah.
like I almost hesitate to even say that word because
Yeah.
generally has been used
Yeah.
in a derogatory
Right.
like context,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so it's like not as taboo as some other things you
Yeah.
could say,
Right.
but
I
could
just
see
wasn't even
I was kind of surprised it took that long.
Yeah.
Really.
Right. Well, so they finally changed it to the commanders, but now, like I said, it's a tribe. And I think his name was White Calf. The chief White Calf is something calf. And they're upset. They're suing him because they want it back. Because they're like, hey, this is commemorating him. This is actually a reverent ordeal.
Okay.
You know? So
Well,
yeah. Anyways, but I just think like some names it's like I get it. This was offensive, or
I
at
don't
least some
think
people took it that
I don't
way.
think they're going back, dude.
No, I don't
I'll just
know.
be real.
And they
I
actually
like-
said that where they're not,
like-
they're going to fight it. But I just
I don't think you're winning that one. Just saying.
yeah. So there's names, right? I mean, you know, but really, like this cup does have history, right? Like you're bringing up, you're talking about King Dynasty or whatever, Queen, whatever it is. But I just think I love that you know, just that concept of man, like finding something that's valuable, you know, and it's, you know, we're not going to make this into a, you know, just a weird thing. We're like, hey, we're all valuable. Once we're, you know, found by Jesus. I just made that up right now. You know, like we are. But anyways,
You know how like that's another thing too, is just
Yeah.
like sometimes like there's like a phrase gets like overused and
Yeah.
like it comes to mean like tons of gets like a bunch of baggage thrown on it. I'm like, this phrase is still true.
yeah, oh yeah,
Right. But like if you say it, it just like
yeah.
it
It's become
doesn't-
cheesy
and it
or just
sounds
overused.
cheesy, or like it puts you in a category of people that like you won't be listened to by these other people.
Yeah.
Like, well, it's still true, and it just kind of sucks sometimes.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
you're like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know where I was going.
No,
with that, but
I
like,
get that. I get that. And I just think, you know, like there are so many things that we can draw out of this, but I just think it's awesome. You know, you just never know what you're going to find. And if you don't go to garage sales,
That is a fantasy of mine, though. Actually,
Yeah.
Even though I don't like do the shopping as much as you do, but like always, like I want to find something and like just have that instinct to take it to Antiques
Oh my
Roadshow, and then
gosh.
like it's actually a Rembrandt.
going on
It's a lost
vacation.
Rembrandt. Yes, and I'm not keeping it. I'm telling you, like if
Yeah.
it's
oh yeah.
if it's something fairly, you know,
Yeah.
a couple thousand, maybe I keep something.
Yeah.
But like realistically, if I find something that's like, you know, 5 or 6 figures, I am selling it.
Oh
Sorry.
yeah. Oh yeah.
Like,
And that's the thing. Like, I appreciate things. I appreciate
I do.
vintage and retro and
Sure.
antiques, but at the same time, like I'm not like the hoarder where I'm like, I'm not gonna sell it. I'm like, oh, I'll sell it, whatever. You know what I mean? Like I just like there's some
I
things
just
I
can't
like.
justify in my current lifestyle
Yeah.
having something on the wall that costs like 600.
Oh my
you know, 6 figures
Yeah.
on my wall.
Right.
I like, dude, that's absurd.
Yeah, yeah.
Like-
seriously. So it's just fun, just a fun little article,
Like-
you know. But yes, exactly.
Be
And
so
that's where
cool,
you really
though,
got to
'cause-
check your heart, you know. Like
Check my heart. Realize I just want it so I can sell it and you can buy a hot tub.
yeah, yeah. Seriously,
That's
dude.
what
Come on. I want a hot tub, a pool, and a sauna.
Oh, I have
If I don't get it in
infrared
this
sauna.
lifetime, I'm hoping
thinking
in the new
about-
world.
I'm thinking about like I probably won't do it, but because I just don't have enough time. But I want to build a sauna in my
Be sick.
backyard.
yeah,
Like,
just a little shed.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's not super hard.
no, not at all.
It just,
I mean,
I would
I say
commit the
that.
time. Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
Well, and it's like you got to know what you're doing.
It's just a wood
I
one.
wouldn't, but it's like when you see some of them, they're not super complex.
it's not complicated. It's
No.
a shed.
No. Have you seen those ones where it's like a mini, like it's like basically a tarp and there's a chair and like,
Oh, yeah,
there's
you
some like
sit
that
in
you're
it.
in, but then there's some that you're like,
Your head
your
sticks out.
head's sticking out.
I like just, I don't know.
This looks like a scene
Listen,
from like The
it's
Water Boy.
doing what, like, I like the whole vibe.
Yeah.
I want the vibe. I want
Yeah.
the like cedar panels and like the right mood lighting and like, you know,
Oh yeah.
I want it
Right.
not
Some
just like
light jazz, elevator music.
like jazz. Mine actually has a speaker in it, but here's the thing about it.
Yeah.
It has like an aux cord
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm not bringing my phone in here. It gets 140. What am
For
I
real.
supposed to bring in here
For real.
that will survive 140 degrees?
Yeah.
Like I'm in
Oh my
here
gosh.
and I'm suffering.
Right.
Right. And that's not even that hot. Like,
Right.
but like that's as hot as mine goes. And I'm like, I don't think I'm gonna bring a phone or anything else
No.
electronic inside here.
No,
Like
not
I
at
don't like the logic doesn't quite compute for me.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like maybe I should drill a hole, but then you couldn't control it.
Right.
So I'm like, oh, I hate this playlist, but I don't want to open the door. 'cause
Yeah,
I'm
you're like, can I have a fan on at the same time? Like,
I don't, you're like, it just doesn't make sense.
right, right. You know, and I was going to read some in Proverbs 12, but verse 27, the lazy man does not roast.
He doesn't roast in the sauna.
Imagine I just
that-
looking at that. Imagine I just looked at that.
That's so good.
As the lazy man
So
does
out of
not roast.
context.
It says, this is so out of context. The lazy man does not roast what he took in hunting, but
Ooh.
diligence is man's precious possession.
Can you imagine killing something and then like leaving it and just letting it rot?
Yeah. I think we're going to make a podcast and it's just going to be bringing up scripture out of context like that.
Oh, that'd be so fun.
Right? The hand of the diligent will rule. Just like that. Just read that first
Just
part.
read half. The first half of almost every proverb would be like, so like what? What?
That's hilarious. No, I have something later, but that's just hilarious.
So good. Doesn't roast. He doesn't
Yeah,
roast. He
no.
doesn't get in the
No,
sauna.
no, no. Well, the opposite of laziness, right, is not attentiveness, action, right?
Yeah.
I wouldn't even say awareness because I can be aware that somebody needs help. I can be aware that somebody is suffocating. I can be aware that,
Whoa.
hey, I am very hungry along with the people around me, but we are to take action. You can be aware of your own sin, but it's like, hey, how do you take action? You bring it to the Lord, right? This lady, it's pretty awesome. We love these kind of stories here on Christ and Culture. Real quick, I had something I wanted to add earlier. You know how like you were talking about like different names and countries and like,
Oh,
you know,
yeah.
like how they reword them. What if we like reworded culture? Because we're not going to reword Christ in the name of our podcast.
Yeah, that would
we
probably
would be in sin.
No, probably not work go over so well.
But like culture, we'll talk about this later, maybe sometime. But
Even
What if it
though,
was like-
even though with Christ, like it is reworded though,
yeah,
right?
yeah, right,
Because
right.
it's not
It's not
in the Hebrew.
Yeah, that's true. We could make it Hebrew.
I don't even remember.
We could bring back the Hebrew.
I know his name's Yeshua, and we say
Yeah.
Jesus.
Yes, exactly.
But like, I don't think I remember Christ. Well, we needed to remedy that.
yeah, yeah.
Right.
Well, and
we need to
I'm,
remedy that.
and I'm just thinking like culture.
How do you
we
say
we
it?
could like change it because I don't like the word cult.
Oh,
You know?
well, here's the
Anyways.
thing. That's the funny thing is the original root meaning. Is it Latin or is it? I don't remember.
Yeah.
But culture doesn't mean like cult. Doesn't have negative connotations in the original sense,
Okay.
right? It has only come to mean that I think in the 20th century that it became associated with, like brainwashing type stuff,
Wow.
right?
Yeah.
Like a cult wasn't like, it wasn't a negative word
Yeah.
per se. And I don't remember what the actual original, I'm like stretching for that right now. And
Yeah.
I feel like I'll say it wrong.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
but
no,
look it
I'm
up.
just saying. Yeah. Yeah. Like
The
that's good
original,
that-
like the root
saying that.
of it, it was literally just like devotion or something to that effect.
Huh. Yeah.
I don't know. Let me look it up.
No, I can see that. I just think too, it's like there's some things that you like, okay, change it up. And we bring that up because we've had a little bit of
Oh,
a
okay. Here
battle.
it is.
Go
So
ahead.
cult is just basically religious practice. Cult is the care owed to deities, temples, shrines, or churches. Cult is embodied in ritual and ceremony. Its presence or former presence is made concrete in temples, shrines, churches, and cult images, including votive offerings and votive sites. So, like,
Okay.
not. It has come to mean to us,
Right.
like
Right.
the people that like entice people and like come take your retirement money
Right.
and like all that other
Right.
other stuff.
Yeah.
But that's like a more recent, not that people weren't using stuff to entice people back in
Right.
the day and take all their stuff.
Yeah. Right.
That's happened since time immemorial.
Right. Right.
Right. But the word becoming synonymous with that.
Yeah. Like that
It's
was
a
their
recent
emphasis
in-
projecting.
It's
it.
a
Go ahead.
recent like thing.
Yeah. Right.
Like
Interesting, because I've never had that understanding. You know,
Yeah.
so it's good to know. But it's like it's so crazy how you can have the root words, the history, and then it's like, nope, we've dropped that
it's
completely.
the funny thing. This is the problem with changing, and I understand that the language has to change, right?
Yeah.
But the problem with letting words change like too quickly or too often, and you go back and you read some text
Yeah.
from previously, you won't understand what you're reading, right? Unless you know that the meaning of the word changed
Yeah.
over time.
Okay.
So you almost need a dictionary of the time period.
yeah, and I
Like-
see that. I see that too.
Because I've run into some stuff. I've read old stuff. I went through this phase where I read like journals,
Yeah.
like from like just historical figures and like explorers and all that other stuff. And I did that, and like
Uh-huh.
sometimes you'd run into something, and I'm like, this doesn't make any sense.
No.
And then like I would find out, and that's how I found out about the cold thing. But you would find out, you're like, oh, this didn't mean what I thought it meant. Or it does now,
Right.
but it didn't mean that then. It meant
Exactly.
something entirely different.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Well, and it's, I mean, that I feel like things change, or we just like forget about the root word, right? The history of
Right.
it. I think of, you know, like even discipleship, you know, and and it's like, man, always, find out, like in contrast, like that's why we have different versions. Like, I was gonna say, find out what things really mean.
Right.
One of the big questions, good friend of mine, Rachel Newby, we were in ministry for years together in Young Life, and it just rubbed off on me in a good way. She would always bring out the word or the phrase, what does that even mean? And I brought that up with our youth this last week, where you don't want to be someone that's just, picking at somebody or bothering, but it's like asking that question, hey, what does that even mean? Like if it's humility, that's one that I've had to explain to people,
Right.
with, oh, this is what it means. And you go into detail, and so asking questions isn't a bad thing. I feel like we're pressured. If it's fear, if it's, just, if it's laziness, whatever it is. So, but it's a good thing to find out, what things actually mean, and this lady that we're going to talk about, she, again, really ran into action, so she works at Wendy's and she saved this customer's life. Right. And so she was freaking out a little bit. This person needed needed some action. She needed some help. And, she had to encourage herself. She's like, hey, girl, she even says, girl, you know how to do CPR. Get over here and do these chest compressions. Right. I mean, that's
I
pretty
love
awesome.
that when you're doing the self-talk.
Yeah.
Like, so great.
Get out of the gutter.
I do that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Usually I'm chastising myself. Come on, Taylor. I use my last name. I did
Like
that
you're in
to
high school
myself.
high school
so
football.
Taylor, she helps you out all the time,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
I did that to myself. I said, what did I say? I said something kind of aggressive to myself, like under my breath.
Yeah.
And she was just mortified. And I realized immediately what had just happened. I'm like, no, I'm talking to me. Because I said something to like, come on, Taylor, what are you thinking? Right?
Yeah.
And she wasn't doing anything. She's sitting there drinking a water. Right?
It's so good.
It's so horrible.
I love it.
felt so bad. I was like, no, you're good. I'm just trying to like process and like get
So
my stuff
awesome.
together today.
Yeah.
I'm talking to me.
Yeah.
Like, this is what I do when I self-talk to myself and try to like encourage and like prod myself.
Yeah.
I think it goes back to football,
Yeah. Oh yeah.
right?
Oh yeah.
In my mind, like Taylor was like, when I get commanded,
Yeah.
right? And told, and like, I need to get like
Right.
that discipline back in.
Yeah.
And like, so that when I self-talk, I don't self-talk Esai. I don't
Yeah.
know why,
Yeah.
but
That's
like,
good.
it's always Taylor.
Yeah. Well, and I think we got to know that we are always going to be, like discouraging ourselves, or maybe not discouraging ourselves, but we're always, we can easily be like, no, I can't do this. And so it's like, man, we have to be motivational with ourselves.
Right.
And our words are powerful with other people, with ourselves, if it's from other people or if they are from ourselves, so I love that, man. And that's what she did. And, Esai just confessed, I did too. It's like you have to encourage yourself. If you make up a name for yourself, no, I'm kidding.
Make up a name.
But
You're like, listen, Roger, you need to get it together, Roger.
yeah, come on. But she was about to call 911. I don't know if she ever told someone else to call 911, but she sprinted into action, right? And she brings up how, she didn't panic visibly. That's hard for me sometimes, right? I think for all of us at times where if we're panicking, we're freaking out, like we show it. And one thing with me, I believe I'm gifted in, and I've seen you, Esai, we've talked about this, where if someone else needs help, like we're doing it. We're going to take action. Even if we're not, maybe we are showing that we're panicking. We're going to try
I'm
not to.
freaking out on the inside.
But
I'm going to pretend like I'm fine.
right. But at the same time, like I don't always act that way if it's myself being hurt. I don't know if you're the same way, right? But this lady, right, Alexandria, brings up how she learned CPR in high school, and she got to do it, and and so she did the chest compressions, and this gentleman actually woke up, right? He gasped for air. It only took a few minutes. The adrenaline jumped in, and man, I love this. I love the story, and like what, a powerful thing where she took action, and I believe I saw where people were just looking around. Maybe I did see that. Maybe it was a different story I was looking at, but sometimes you're going to be that person where if it's life and death, if it's somebody that needs help, an encouragement. But man, I tell you what, like we commend you, Alexandria, for doing this. And, it's a beautiful, beautiful thing. So wherever you're at, if you're at a Wendy's, if you're at church, we love you, Alexandria and Wendy. We love you, Wendy.
Good old Wendy.
So good. So this next article, which is our last one, this is a judge who was sick of sending young adults, right?
Minors. They were minors.
Yeah, to prison, right? And so he found a better way. And the statistics show that there is results in favor of this. And, I believe it was like 80% of kids who actually go through this program were benefited. So 84.8, so 85% of first-time offenders who enroll at this location, which is Rancho Cielo, never reoffend, compared to the 40% rate in the county, right? So, and it's
high recidivism.
Yeah, yeah. And so it's a ranch where he started in 2000, right? Where You know, like, no, I'm sorry. So I'll just let you know what he says. So our, before then, by the year 2000, Judge John Phillips had long since lost count of the number of minors he had sent through the California penitentiary system for crimes committed during a violent, unguided, and hopeless adolescence. You send these young people to prison and they learn to become harder criminals, he said once. And man, I see that as true. I see that as true. You know, like where it's like, dude, what are you hoping to do?
Right.
You know, I think of when you send your, you know, like, and there has to be punishment. I get it. There has to be discipline. I think of, you know, my kids, if like, you know, I sent them to their room, you know, even if you put your kids in timeout, it's like, there's a time where it's too long, you know, like where, anything really, when you think about anything, it's like, well, I'm not going to eat today. It's like, okay, well, I'm not going to eat for a while. It's like, what does that while consist of? Right. There's fasting and praying. You can only do that for so long, you know? I mean, like there's just limits to everything. And I think, man, he's spot on with that.
Yep.
You know, and so this ranch, you know, like it's an awesome thing where they're showing these, you know, juveniles, like, you know, different work ethic. And I'm not saying you can't learn that in prison, right? But
You can.
yeah, I mean, there's
sometimes.
yeah, right. So,
But this place is specifically a vocational training facility, and like it has a culinary academy, and things. And it's like, I think the emphasis is developing skills.
yes,
And
so
skills,
big.
skills,
So huge.
tend to lead to a purpose, and purpose is actually what saves young men.
Yeah, right.
Period.
Right.
Like, and the ultimate purpose would be to serve the Lord.
Yeah,
And like,
amen.
but like, let's at least give some like low level substitute, like something.
right. Yeah,
If a young man doesn't have purpose, they will seek out destruction.
Yeah.
Like it's a natural tendency.
yeah,
Right.
Right.
Actually, I don't know. I can only speak to young men, but like young women are probably the same in a different regard.
yeah,
Right.
right. Yeah,
But it's more
I
prominent in young men because
I think
like,
so.
you know, just because of the nature of you know.
Right. And
male.
I just think how we were built, we were designed.
Yeah.
And like you're saying, it's not that women don't have that, but I feel like sometimes women can more easily just find something,
Right.
their niche, you know, and I'm not saying they're more easily
or
happy or
they're
satisfied.
just less likely to go into aggressively seek a purpose
Yeah.
that is self-destructive.
Yeah. Right.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. So, you know, I see it as that, you know, I see this as a, you know, well-designed, you know, vocational,
It's a good idea.
ordeal. Yeah.
More of these programs need to exist.
Yeah. Well, and you have, we have one towards Yachats. I can't even think what it is called right now. Job Corps and trade school. And it's like, it's something, man, there's been some awesome results there. You know, I've known some guys. I actually taught there years ago. I don't know if you remember that. I went for a full week, Monday through Friday, and got to work around ministry schedule. We had a gentleman that him and his family moved away up the coast, but it was awesome. I was there. I was like Monday through Thursday, you know, and so I had to work my ministry schedule around it. But it was awesome, and I got to you know, be in the really front lines of it.
Yeah.
You know, and
You know, do you remember James Brown?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Of course you do.
yeah. Oh yeah.
He met Juanita there.
Oh, I didn't know that.
That's how they met up. Was
Really?
at Job Corps.
Okay. Yeah. Well, and I just remember
Like-
when I was getting in big trouble
Yeah.
from 7th grade on, and
Job Corps would have been good.
yeah, well, my grandpa was big on trade schools, you know,
Oh,
and
yeah.
he got his business degree at UT, go Longhorns. And he was, you know, he was in the
Longhorns.
Navy. He wanted me to join the Navy or go to trade school. He's like, just find something, man. You know,
Right.
that not only keeps you out of trouble, but, you know, builds, you know, I had work ethic, but I just, you know, I was bored and wanted to
We're pushing
crazy and-
we pushed too many people into the prep for college.
Yeah,
that We're probably not like want. It was not their inclination.
Yeah.
And not
right.
everything needs a degree.
Right.
Like it almost
Oh my
doesn't make
gosh.
even make sense
Yeah.
to pursue some of that stuff.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Some of it is
If you can't put up with the prerequisite, because a lot of times the thing about college is they're propping up a lot of departments, and you're not going to go directly into what you're not going to work in your major.
yeah.
You're not going to do stuff involving that
Yeah.
for like the first 2 years.
Right.
And it's hard because you're like, oh, I'm doing all this stuff that I do not want to do. And probably if I successfully complete this,
Yeah.
I won't be doing any of this stuff.
Yeah.
None
Exactly.
of this stuff. And I'm paying for it.
Yeah.
And it's like
Yeah.
absurd.
Right.
And like, you're like learning to do things that like,
Yeah.
I mean, they have value.
Right.
Right.
Well,
if you are like me, I like academia
Yeah.
and like learning new things.
Oh yeah.
But if you're focused and you want to like, I want to learn the thing I came here for,
Yeah.
right? And you're like, this is what I came here for, is this specific thing. And then you're like, oh, you got to jump through the 12 other hoops first.
Exactly. yeah.
That's really hard for some people.
Yeah.
And they just want to get to getting the job done.
Yeah.
And
Well,
I'm cool to
agree.
wonder, like, because I have that wonder thing, right?
Yeah.
And I want to know all the things, so I'm totally cool. Like, hey, let's do this, and we could do that too.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, sometimes they're just propping up departments that probably don't need propped up. Just let the people that want to take that stuff take it, and
Yeah.
then like
Absolutely.
let it
I
die.
agree.
I don't know.
No, I agree. We're not, persuading people to not go to school, but I think there is a pressure, going
Oh, you
going
think
going
you
to
thi-
going to
there-
school growing up.
You're
you,
led to believe it was lesser,
yeah.
right?
Oh,
And
exactly.
And nobody told me, I don't know about you, but I was like, wait a minute. These jobs pay more than these jobs, and
Yeah.
it doesn't make sense.
Uh,
I gotta go. You sent people to go to invest 4 years of their life, right, or more,
yeah.
for a job that pays way less than this job that you could like apprentice in and get paid right now.
Oh man.
Like, I don't understand. Why are you like on purpose sending people like that aren't even inclined? It's one thing if you like, hey,
Right.
this is actually
my
what I want to
passion,
do.
my desire.
But if you don't
Exactly.
have like a direction necessarily, and like,
Seriously.
you're like, oh, let's prod them this way, or if you just have a light inclination, like, dude, let them be a plumber.
Yeah.
Holy
no joke.
cow, that's an amazing job,
No,
right?
no
And
joke.
It makes tons of money.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not gonna be a plumber because I don't like crawling around a house. I hate it.
Well, I just think too,
Like-
I grew up in school and they would say, if you don't go to college, you're flipping burgers at McDonald's.
Right. That's the only other option.
Yeah, that's the only other
That's
option.
what they say. My mom would always say, "You're gonna dig ditches."
Yeah. I
Like-
can name countless people that have gone to school that don't use their degrees,
Right.
that didn't even need a degree,
Right.
and I believe sometimes with school, it can just teach you to strive, but it's like,
Sure.
not all of
it
it's
has
not
value.
all of it.
Listen,
can be
everything has a
beneficial.
value, right? If you put the work in, I forget what is like all work has value, right? Even if it doesn't come to the fruit that you wanted, right?
Right.
It's still refining you,
Yeah.
and you're gonna get something of it, even though it doesn't give you what you intended for it to give you.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I think we're on the same page. We just see it as like, man, there are trade schools, and here we are in ministry, but
Yeah.
it's like, have that hunger, and do your research, find out about new concepts. It's like, man, like you can still learn. If anything, we have technology at our hands where you can learn how
Yeah,
to
you can learn.
work on cars, different, if it's like, I don't know, I just think of not just on Pinterest, I think of YouTube. I think of just so many aspects in this life that you can attain. And, yes, school can be beneficial, but also there are different, negative areas where if it's debt, if it's, just something that you were never really interested in, and I'm not going to bring up regret. That's not where we're being led to, but it's like, man, like there's just so much out there. And, sometimes you can go to school, you can do all these things. I'm not firm on, hey, let's do everything to pass this test. When we're just really regurgitating information, like,
well, that's what it kind of like it sends you into, right?
Right.
Because you're like, my goal is to actually get into whatever.
Yeah.
You're like, I want to do this.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm not picking anything because I don't want to pick anything.
Yeah.
But but then you're like doing all these other things, and it just, you're gonna naturally like kind of like cheat yourself.
Yeah.
Where you're like, well, I'm just here to pass it.
Yeah.
And I don't care if I actually learn it.
Right.
Right.
Well, and some people don't, grow in and attain work ethic, and it's like, as a Christian, it's more than just work ethic. Absolutely. It's towards the Lord and, blessing people and really blessing him. But I just think, like regurgitating information, like I'm not even stoked on the school board system, just like, and how, like we just, again, regurgitate information to pass a test. I think there's hands-on. I think, okay, you worked hard to pass a test. Well, do you have that in your day to day? So I just think there's ways of learning, and this is working, like just at the school, it works at trade schools, like I'm not going to be less pumped or, less excited if because I'm a youth pastor, work with young adults, I have children as you do. It's like, okay, you want to go to school, you have a desire for this, but don't just make a decision just because you needed to make a decision. Sometimes I will catch myself. There are times that you need to make a decision, right? For instance, well, I don't have a job. I don't know what job's for me. Well, circumstantially, if you have a wife, if you have children, you can't just not work. We see in scripture that you are to work.
Right.
We see in scripture, if you're not supporting your family, we also see that, hey, if you're not taking care of your family, you're worse off than an unbeliever. You know what I mean? Like there's time where you need to take action.
You got to hold up the four walls of your house.
Right.
Dude.
But that doesn't mean you need to go to school. If you're just like, well, I need to do something, like, bro,
yeah.
That's who am I? That's just what I see. Yeah. That's just what
you're just going to like, I'm just saying, if you don't know and you're just like, I'll just go to school then.
Yeah.
Like, well,
right.
Yeah.
Right.
Maybe something else.
Exactly. Right. And there's a couple scriptures. I don't know if they're, completely out of context right now, but, in Proverbs 11, where is it? 27, he who earnestly seeks good finds favor, but trouble will come to him who seeks evil. And it was just something, I was thinking of, with a couple of the articles, even yesterday with this verse, but it's like, we are to earnestly with hard work, diligently, seeking good, and if that's, and I'm not saying like the whole, the guy that found a cup, but it's like, man, or, just like finding new technology with the jet, but it's like, man, we are to seek good. And some of that's like, man, like, how is this beneficial to other people? Is this going to be helpful? Like with the lady at Wendy's, like she sought like, hey, how can I be a blessing? I don't think she's waking up that day. I don't know. Like, hey, how can I be a blessing today? I think we all should, but she saw that opportunity and walked in it, and so, and seeking evil, it's like, dude, that abortion clinic, it's like, I think they're thinking there's some good involved, but it's like, man, what is the bigger picture? Is this killing somebody? Is this going to actually physically kill somebody? Or is this going to bring death? Is your good bound up in an evil intention, Right. So, and then, just the other one, before we move on, and feel free to chime in. It was in 12.
Proverbs 12.
Yep, 12:15. The way of a fool is right in his own eyes, but he who heeds counsel is wise. And I would say godly counsel, right? You know, you don't just go to anybody, but you can, if left to yourself, and I'm talking about without God, without his word, without godly friends, you know, you're going to feel justified. You're going to feel, you know, like, oh man, like, you know, take any of these articles we've brought up, you know, where it's, and even beyond all the conversations we've had, right? You know, you could feel justified. You could feel, you know, even at peace, you know, like left to yourself. But it's like, man, like that's why we, you know, chime in with each other. You know, it's like
it's easy to get weird when you're the only person you listen to.
So
And
true.
you're like, oh,
Right. Yeah.
is
So-
that what everybody thinks?
Yeah,
No,
right.
This is not what everybody thinks.
Yeah. Well, and really, sometimes you're not. Sometimes you're not going to be around in fellowship, you know, too often. You know, it's like with us, it's like we can be busy, you know, in ministry, but it's like we have designated time with other pastors.
Right.
You know, and you can't seclude yourself. You can't just be like, well, I'm not going to share this, and that's. I mean, time after time, I've done that. You know, but it's like, dude, share ideas. If it's, you know, and have trustworthy, godly people around you. If it's your wife, your husband, if it's close friends, you know, and always, you know, like bring it to the Lord and His Word. Because, dude, I'll say this, you know, it gets easier and easier the more you distance yourself. You know, and we've had some awesome articles. We've been on here quite a while, and so we're going to go ahead and land that jet plane. 1.5 hours
1.5 hours.
from. No, I'm not saying how long
Oh.
we've been on
No,
that
we
jet plane.
haven't.
It was yeah. That would
Not
be a
quite.
mistake. Yeah.
That's probably pretty long.
Yeah. So we're gonna go ahead and land the plane, y'all. And I hope you're encouraged knowing that, hey, we need each other. We need accountability with each other. We need to take action. There are so many, you know, like areas in our daily life. If it's finding a cup, like that article, that's worth a lot. Where it's like, man, digging for, I would say digging for valuable concepts in our walk with in our life. You know, it's like, man, technology with that jet plane. It's like, okay, it's good, you know, but it's also, there's time to be patient, which is all the time. There's, you know, waiting on the Lord, but there's a time for action, even with that Wendy's, you know, the lady from Wendy's, you know, I mean, there's just so many articles and topics and areas of our life. We're to learn from each other's mistakes. But that's not the only way we learn. Right.
Right.
You know, and also you don't have to learn. Yeah. I mean, I don't think that's the only way we are designed to learn from our failures, from other people's weaknesses, from our own. But tell you what, you know, you can, and there's a lot that we can avoid. You know, that's found in God's word. That's found through the Lord, and brothers and sisters in the Lord. So, you know, just be encouraged, spur each other on. You know, I hope we are spurring you on a little bit. And, you know, let's go ahead and end in prayer. Lord, we thank you for this time, God. We thank you for Christ and Culture podcast. But Lord, we your spirit, you'd make us tender and hungry for you and for your word. And so we lay this at your feet, God. You're going to use it all. And so use us in our daily lives, Lord. In your precious name we pray. And we all said, amen.
Amen.
All right, y'all. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you soon. God bless you. And there's more to come.